And there were a lot of gaps that we found in the service, in so many different things. And naturally, I am more like a process improver. I like to improve processes. Like, I'm not the guy who's gonna reinvent the wheel or invent this awesome new thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm more like, I look at what's there right now and I try to improve it as much as I can.
Welcome to the LandLife Podcast with your host, PJ Riley.
Hey guys, welcome to the LandLife Podcast. My name is PJ Riley. Today we're going international again. We're going all the way to the frozen tundra of Toronto. That's not super far, but it is international if you're here in the United States. Guys, today, Tarek Hossain, am I saying your name correctly?
You got it.
Awesome. All the way from Toronto. Tarek, how you doing?
I'm good. PJ, how are you?
Good, great, man. Doing really well. Hey, so you're in the. We kind of talked about your business a little bit, kind of like before we hit record here. Maybe let everybody know who you are and kind of how you got to this point where we're at right now.
Okay, perfect. So, I co-founded with my friend a moving and storage business called Double Space, and essentially we have to go a little ways back if to talk about my entrepreneurial journey and things
Absolutely.
like that. So, just to make a very long story short, essentially I started a staffing business in 2006. And at that time, I was about 3 years out of school. I was working in a company and I was doing okay. But the thing is that I knew that this is not something that I wanted to do. I wanted to actually run my own business and have full control about the things that I was doing, right? So ran that staffing business, had zero experience, obviously, in that field, never started a business before. But after almost 8 years, we had 9 employees and we did pretty good, I want to say. And at that time in 2013, I took an exit from the business. So we sold it out. And once the business was sold, I needed different things to do. So basically, started several different smaller practices and things like that. But Double Space, the moving and storage business, we started that in 2020. So it's been 2 years right now. And essentially what we do is we do your regular moves, point A to point B. And we also work with real estate agents. So essentially what we do is that when a house needs to be staged, we go in, we pick up the items, we do short-term storage, and once the house is sold, that's when we drop it off. So it's like a seamless process where we do end-to-end all of it.
Wow, that's a lot. Let's unpack that. So, why moving and storage? So you went from not moving into storage, nothing real estate related, all of a sudden now to moving people, staging homes, all this other stuff. Why? What prompted you to do that?
That's an excellent question. Actually, neither of us, my partner nor myself, we had any exposure to this kind of a business, right? But we moved ourselves, a few times over the years, right? And there were a lot of gaps that we found in the service, in so many different things. And naturally, I am more like a process improver. I like to improve processes. Like, I'm not the guy who's gonna reinvent the wheel or invent this awesome new thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm more like, I look at what's there right now and I try to improve it as much as I can. That's just like a natural inclination to do that, right?
Yeah.
So having seen that, unfortunately, there are a lot of moving scams because it's a very large city. And with any large city, you will find that there are these kind of scams and things like that. So, and especially with smaller movers, I'm not talking about the larger ones. I'm talking about the smaller and the mid-sized moving companies, right? So essentially what we wanted to do was bring some transparency into the whole process. and bring a level of professionalism in the service as well. And there are various different things that we did. And the other thing which we found was that working with real estate agents, we found that there was definitely a gap in the service that they were being offered, which means that when you actually go pick up the items of the present homeowner, the movers weren't necessarily paying as much attention. They didn't have proper storage, or they didn't have a proper inventory system where they could actually have everything ready to go once the house was sold. So sometimes items would come back damaged, sometimes items won't come back at all. So the thing is that those are some of the feedback that we got on an informal basis from some of the real estate agents that we knew. And once we spoke to a few more, we found that the problem was more widespread than we thought. So therefore, we thought that, this is something that we can definitely add some value in. And basically, we got started.
Yeah, so this is a good lesson for anyone to learn. So Tarek saw a problem in the community, right? There was a problem, there was an issue. And just like any good entrepreneur, Tarek said, okay, I'm going to fix it. And he made a company that was going to fix this problem. How do you do that though? Do you start hiring movers? Do you, is this a brick and mortar business? Is this all online? What does a double space look like?
Okay. A lot of very interesting points, right? And I'm going to try and sort of unpack each of those as I can. So first of all, we are not a brick and mortar business, which means that we don't actually have a physical location. We don't sell boxes. We don't sell any of the moving supplies or anything like that. So someone couldn't actually physically come in to our location in order to buy those things or to get storage for that matter. So we don't work like a traditional self-storage, because a traditional self-storage has a physical unit where the owner has access. With us, what we have is a large warehouse. So we basically keep the items there, and basically no one has access to it while it's being stored. Perfect. So it's basically pick up, storage, and drop off, just in one shot, right? So that's one of the things. The other thing is that you can basically, go to our website, which is doublespace.ca, fill out a form, we'll get in touch with you, and basically you don't actually have to physically come in to book a moving service. We can do all of that through email or phone, whichever you prefer, right? Okay. But one of the things I think we had to also pivot away from, and this will be also very interesting, is that we figured that the entire end-to-end thing could have been done online, which means that we would need realtors or their assistants or stagers to go in, pick all the items. We're going to go in and just pick it up, store it, and drop it off. So there were no need to get in touch on the phone or anything like that. But when we started, basically what we found out was that realtors or their assistants didn't necessarily want to do this, because a lot of the times the stager had the list of items which would need to be moved, or the owner had it. So you need a lot of collaboration between the stager, the owner, the mover, and the realtor, their assistant, etc. There's just too many people here. Yeah. So the thing is that they didn't necessarily want to take on an additional headache. They were going to pay for it, no problem. But they didn't want to go through this whole process of going online, selecting all these items and doing those kind of things. So we had to actually scale back our online system and make it slightly more manual, where we would actually get involved in sort of like a group email between all these stakeholders and make sure that we're giving them the right information and sort of booking the job right then and there, right? I got you. So I think the market wasn't necessarily ready for that. At least that was our experience. Mm-hmm. And that's why, although our system does exist in the back end, but on the front end, we have made it less it's not as functional, if you will. So it's more like filling out a form and us getting in touch with them.
Okay, so sorry, you're basically making things simple for everybody, right? You're adding simplicity to moving, to staging a house. So everything is easily done online. Nobody wants to go into an office anymore, meet you, talk about their moving. Nobody wants to do that anymore.
No one has
so
the
much
time
easier
for
to
that
go
either.
online and fill out a form real quick, right?
Yeah, and no one has the time for that either. It's and the thing is that in Toronto, specifically GTA where we operate, houses sell really fast. I mean, currently the market is kind of slow, but I'm talking about the pandemic, and then last year, like houses would be on the market for about a week or less than that. So people don't have the time. They need the furniture to be out of there so that they can either paint it, and then you will have the stager come in and stage it. In the meantime, the cleaners would come in, clean the whole place. So the thing is that a lot of things need to happen in sequence, and nothing happens till the furniture is out of there.
Yeah.
So we are sort of the first cog, if you will, in that whole chain of events. So the thing is that we need to be efficient and available in order to ensure that that process can take place.
Okay. Okay. So what's the next step then for you guys? What's the next step for Double Space?
I think the next step would be that we do have plans on expanding our service to other cities, because currently we are able to handle the GTA. But the thing is that going into the future, we would like to have more coverage across the province. That would be number one. Number two would be actually self-storage facilities. Like we don't have like the traditional self-storage facilities right now. So this is actually a good business model, and this is something that we would want to get into in the future. It just started raining.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what does that entail though? So you want to move to another city? Are you going to physically have to go out there and set up shop, or is it all going to be just online and we work with new realtors in that area?
It will be mostly online, but we will have to have like a local presence, which means that we will have to have at least a truck and a crew ready to go.
Sure.
If we are going to service the other major cities within our province.
Yeah. So relationships are super important. How do you develop those in your business? How do you go out and meet people that would be an asset to your business?
So that's an excellent question, actually. So one of the first things I tried to do is, because I was new in the business, right? I never, as I said, like never had a moving business, was never into it. So one of the first things I tried to do is I tried to get in touch with more seasoned movers who had a presence on, let's say, Instagram. Someone who was online, it was much easier for me to connect with them, right? So there were a couple of guys that I did connect with. And what I initially said was that, listen, end of the month and very early of the following month, those are the 5 days that everyone's like super busy. That is the busiest time for movers, right? So what I found in my first year was that we were getting jobs, but we were not able to actually service those clients because our trucks were booked.
Yeah.
So at that time, everyone would ask me like, can you recommend someone or something like that, right? And I didn't really have a network to recommend anyone to.
Yeah.
So I called these guys up and I said that, listen, if this is a problem that I'm facing, obviously you're facing this problem times 2 or times 3. And they said, yeah, exactly. And they said, we don't know where the overflow is going to go. And I said that, you know what? We're not always as busy as you guys, obviously. So the thing is that you can send some of that overflow work to us, and we'll get back to you with work that we can't handle. For example, we didn't have a 26-feet truck in our first year. So we couldn't do the large houses, the 4-bedroom homes or things like that. So you guys have those trucks, so I can send that work off to you guys. And that's the kind of relationship that I built initially. in order to gain some traction, right? I mean, you can always advertise, you can do all those kind of things, but building these relationships are key. Because I remember what happened was that one time, this company that we have a relationship with, they have like 3, 4 different trucks, right? So on one of the jobs, it's like they didn't have a driver that morning, or the mover didn't show up. So, they have a job, but they can't really go out
Yeah.
and do anything, right? So they called me up and said, "Hey, man, this is like SOS last minute. Can you guys help us out?" And I said, "Yeah." Like, because that morning we didn't have any work and the guys were ready to go. So I said, "Yeah, fine, let's go." So, you need to build those relationships within your industry in order to actually leverage each other's capabilities. That's
Yeah.
what I have found so far. And for us, because we're in the storage business, you need to have relationships with, for example, people who own warehouses. You don't necessarily need to have relationships with storage guys. I mean, it's good if you can rent out large storage facilities at a discount and then sort of resell the space. You can do that too. But the thing is that that's more of a relationship on a corporate level. So you go to XYZ storage and say, "Hey, can I rent out 10, 3 10 by 15s at 50% off, but I'll take it for the whole year." Something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are afraid of making relationships with people in their own industry. They're afraid, especially when they're new. They're afraid they're going to lose money, right? They're afraid that, well, if I work with this other person, they're going to take my customers. But that's really not how it works. If you work together over time, you really only benefit each other. You loaned out a driver for one of a different company's trucks, correct? So down the road, they're probably going to do the same for you. You're constantly just benefiting each other. So what would you say are businesses then doing incorrectly in your industry right now?
I think one of the things that people are doing incorrectly, and again, it's a lot of industry related stuff which is going on, right? So it's not necessarily everything within their own control, and I understand that. But what it is that I think the first thing people get wrong in this industry is that they hire people who are not skilled. And when I say that, it's like what happens with companies who have like a single truck and they may have the odd job in a week. They can't afford to have permanent people. And I understand that. So essentially what it is that at that point, if you have a job that morning, you will send whoever is available or whoever shows up.
Yeah.
This is why what happens is that some of these companies, they overbook their people. What I mean by that is that if they need 2 movers, they're going to ask 4 people to come in that morning because they know 50% are going to be no-shows. That's just the way it is. If you try to hire someone off, say, for example, in the States, you have Craigslist, right? So we have something similar here. So if you try to hire someone off Facebook Marketplace or, Kijiji, you will find 50% are no-shows. I can guarantee you that.
Wow.
So if that's the case, so it's like whoever shows up, you send them off to the job. And they have no training. They may, obviously when you talk to them on the phone, everyone's going to say, "Yeah, sure, I've done so many moving jobs and things like that." So see, these companies, they have no other option but to send whoever is available at that point.
I gotcha.
So what they do is that they're taking jobs at a very low rate in order to bring in customers, obviously, right? So they're sending in people who are not qualified or skilled to do the job. So they're going to mess up. They're going to either break something or they're going to, in terms of attitude, they're not going to be as friendly. There's so many different things which can happen, right? So if that's the case, you're not serving your customer properly, number one. You're not actually doing any favors to your business either because your brand's not growing. And at the same time, your margin is very low. Because if you're taking in jobs at a fraction of what say regular movers would be charging, your margins are super low. So you're not actually being profitable either.
Yikes. Okay, so this is super interesting. I didn't even know this. So are all the movers like a day laborer type position? Is that how we bring in the guys that are physically doing the moving?
So that's a good question. The big moving companies that we have, at least in our market, and I'm sure the experience is exactly the same across the US, right? What it is that they have their permanent people. The reason why is that they have already established their brand over the last 10 years, 15 years, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So the thing is that they have enough jobs to keep them busy. And even if they're just sitting around not doing anything for a day, let's say, they're still going to get paid because they're most likely permanent employees.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the thing is that the company is not going to lose money because they know they have enough work to make up for it, right?
Yeah.
The real problem is with mid-size and smaller size businesses. So essentially, when you are very small and you're starting out with a single truck, it is very difficult to have permanent people. You can't have permanent people on your payroll. You have to find, as you said, day laborers, people who will come in. You have the driver and the mover. Usually it's a two-man crew, right? Sometimes it's a three-man crew, but you will always need that experienced guy to drive the truck. At least you hope it's an experienced guy driving the truck, right? So that's number one. Mid-sized companies are in a position where they can have permanent people on their payroll. At the same time, they don't necessarily have the jobs all the time. So their margins are low, but at the same time, I think that they are in a position of growth, because unless you have permanent people who are, qualified to do the job, you are not going to get the word of mouth, which is so important in the moving industry.
Yeah.
Like word of mouth marketing is the best. So it's like our crew, we've had the same guys for almost, I want to say, year and a half. And it's like people who used us like a year ago and they're moving now, or they've referred somebody or whatever. They're always surprised to see the same guys showing. So I think that is also a very important component of the industry.
Okay. So when you're starting out though, like I can see how that would scare, like, let's say I wanted to start my own moving company. I can see how that would scare people away from starting, thinking, well, I have to hire, new employees every single time we do a move. And if I don't get them, I got to do it myself.
Right.
Did you ever come across that where you had to go out there and do all the physical moving yourself?
Yeah. So I did initially when we started, I have done 12 moves.
Okay.
Not any in the last year and a half, but when we started, and although my partner is in construction and he's kind of, moving is something that I wouldn't say comes naturally to him, but it's something he can do. But obviously, I'm not a mover. But so one of the things which happened to us, and again, as I say, that this happens to everyone, is that you get a lot of no-shows on the day of the move. A lot of people just don't show up, and that's just the way it is, right? So once that happens, is that if you are down one person or whatever, you got to go in, and that's how you keep your commitment to your customer, because at the end of the day, the move needs to be completed, right? So that's obviously one of the issues. But what we did initially was that, say a driver gets paid anywhere between $20 to $24 an hour in our market, right? So what we tried to do initially to bring in that person who's skilled and qualified to do the move for us on one particular day, because we didn't have jobs, let's say, 5 days out of the week, right? So for those couple of days, what we did was that we paid a premium on top of what the market would have paid him.
Okay.
So instead of paying,
Enticing him.
let's say $24, we pay 26 or 27, whatever it may be. And regular movers make anywhere between 17 to $20 an hour in our market. So if you're willing to pay 22, plus they get some tips, which they get to keep from the customer, right? So the thing is that if it works out to be about $25 an hour, it's worth their while. So they will come in and say, okay, you know what, we'll do the job. So you gotta be aware of those kind of things, and that's one way of mitigating the issues which smaller and mid-sized moving companies have.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So you pretty quickly figured out a way to start working on the business instead of in the business. Because when you're the physical mover, you're in the business. You're doing the job day to day. And I think that's a lot of entrepreneurs, I would imagine in an industry like this too, are stuck in the business a lot because they think, hey, no one can do the job better than me. I'm the best at doing this job, so I'm just going to keep doing it. But you figured out strategies to get yourself out of the business and just working on it versus every single day waking up, putting on a pair of gloves and going out and carrying boxes and doing the actual job itself. I want to shift gears just a little bit. Would you grow up in an entrepreneurial family, or was everybody in your family an entrepreneur building their own businesses?
My dad was.
Okay.
So my dad started his business in the 70s, and he was one of the first people to start a private training facility for corporate executives and mid-level guys and things like that. So basically, he would bring in more qualified subject matter experts, and basically they would run training programs. So it was very difficult for him to start the business and establish that kind of a business in the 70s. And, where people were not as familiar with corporate training as they are today. So I've seen all the struggle, and, my dad told me never to become an entrepreneur. He said that it's
we never listen to our parents though, do we?
Yeah, right. So he said that, just become an accountant or an engineer, something where you have a profession and you have a job so that you don't gotta struggle like me. But, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing about entrepreneurship in general is I think that one of the big problems people have is they don't show up prepared every day, right? They don't plan their week early enough to where when they show up on Monday, they're ready to go. They know exactly what to do, what the steps are going to be for Monday. How do you prepare to run a business like this? What does your daily preparation look like?
So there is no Monday for us. It's 7 days a week. Okay. And that's just the way it is. Like, there is no off switch, especially in this business. People can move any day. Any time of the year, any day they need, moving services. So the thing is that we need to be prepared as well. So my preparation is exactly the same for every day. And my preparation, because we have a clear division of labor between my business partner and myself. So I look at client relations, sales, marketing, accounting, all those kind of stuff. And he looks after operations, the trucks, the guys, those kind of things, right? So because we have a clear division of labor, it's much easier for me to plan in terms of, when we should be doing certain types of marketing, for example, like, ads and such. And the other thing is that what I try to do is I set the schedule for every week. So as soon as I have all the information, I set the schedule so that our team is fully aware what the week's schedule is going to look like, right? So that they're also ready. And of course, I have to ensure that there is enough staffing so that we can cover everything. So one thing we are never prepared for are last minute jobs. And this happens especially during the end of the month, because just like, movers don't show up for their jobs, moving companies are sometimes no shows for their customers as well. Wow. So on the morning off, they don't show up. And And this happens frequently. The reason being is that, see, you see a really nice offer, right? Everyone's quoting you $800. These guys are saying 300. So there's a natural inclination to go for the guy who's offering you the least.
Yeah.
But what happens is that, see, that person is probably not taking in a deposit, like a small deposit, which is, adjusted with the final amount. So the
Mhm.
thing is that he's just send you a text message or even an email to say, yeah, confirmed, I'll be there at 10 o'clock, right?
Mhm.
But the night before, someone calls him and says, hey, I got this last minute job. I really need a mover. Can you do it? So he does the calculation to see, okay, this job is going to pay me $1,000. And if I go to the other one, it's 300. So which one is he going to
Yeah.
take, right? So this is one of the things I always say to customers as well, is that if you're going for the like at the very lowest end in terms of service, professionalism, and the price, don't be surprised if you don't get exactly what you're looking for, because chances are that you won't, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
and that's why most professional companies will take a deposit. And that deposit guarantees that those guys are going to show up on that day off, right?
Yeah.
So these are some of the things, yeah.
So how do you differentiate yourself? How do you, are you posted? Are you online? Do people know I mean, I know you have a website, but are you advertising online, building your reputation that way? But how do you differentiate yourself between you guys and the
Mhm.
$300 guy that, maybe won't show up?
That's a good question. Yes, of course, we have advertisements, but the way we try to differentiate ourselves, as I think I touched on this very briefly initially, is that we try to be more transparent and more professional than our competition. And how do we do that, right? So let's talk about professionalism first. So most of these companies, if you call in to get a quote or to discuss any kind of a move, you will find that the call is being answered by the person who's on the truck or who's in the middle of completing another move at the moment. So with that noise and, moving is stressful, right? Even for the
Mhm.
movers, right? So the thing is that in that, what is the level of professionalism you're going to get? So that's the first place where we try to differentiate ourselves, to say that, what, the calls coming to me. I'm not out in the field. I'm not doing anything. I'm not in our truck. I'm not doing any of those things. So I can give full attention to whoever's calling in.
Yeah.
I can walk them through. A lot of people have anxiety when it comes to not only moving, but to book a moving, like the whole process of
Sure.
booking a mover. They don't know the right things to ask. At times they don't know exactly what they should expect from the movers, all those kind of things, right? So I try to walk them through and ease any kind of concerns that they may have. That's one. The second thing about transparency, what I say is that when you book our service, we will send you a full details of everything, including addresses, our rate, and more importantly, our contract. So unlike other movers, we don't show up the morning of the move and shove a 10-page contract in your
Read
face
it.
and say, hey, sign it right now. If
Yeah.
you don't, we can't start. At that point, all you want to do is have the guys load the stuff into the truck,
Mhm.
but you don't actually know what you're signing off on because you don't have the time to read through all these pages, right?
Yeah.
So at that time, you might be signing off many different things, which will increase the rate significantly while the move is going on or after the move, right? So this is why we send our contract way before. So if you are booking a move in September, you are going to get our contract today. So you take your time, you read through it. If you have any questions, concerns, let us know. And at that time, if you think that, you know what, I'm comfortable with this, I want to move forward, then only you send us a deposit and we book it into our system.
Okay. Yeah, guys, that's why you want to get out of the business as soon as you can too. When you run your own business, you want to get out of the business and work on the business as fast as possible. So when the customer calls, you're not, out of breath, sweating at the previous move, trying to talk to them about their problem they're going to have. You want to be like Tarek and be in the office, quiet, peaceful, and sounding professional versus sounding out of breath, when you're talking to your next customer. Guys, if you're in Toronto, I would highly recommend using double space. I would use it. Sounds like the easiest, most simple way of moving around and getting your stuff taken care of and doing it in a professional way. Tarek, how can people get hold of you?
Doublespace.ca.
Doublespace.ca.
Yep. And that's the easiest way to get in touch with us. You can Google my name, Tarek Hossain, as well, and you will find that I'm on many different platforms. You can reach out to me directly as well.
Okay, so social media, you guys are all over there too?
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook. We are moving YYZ on Instagram and on Facebook.
Okay, excellent. Tarek, anything else you want to say before we move on to the final question?
I think one of the things, PJ, as you rightfully said, is that people are apprehensive when they're trying to do something new, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things I say is that you don't have to buy a truck to start a moving business. You can just rent a truck initially to see how it goes. You don't have to do 20 moves in a month to get started. You can just do one move on one particular weekend to see if this is the right business for you. You can rent all the equipment, your dollies, everything, right? You can rent your truck and you can also hire movers, right? So see if the business is right for you or not. You can just, advertise on any of these marketplaces and see if there's any traction. And if there is some traction, do a move. Your margin will be super low if you're renting everything initially, but at least do a couple of moves to see if this is the right business for you or not. So you don't have to have like a huge investment going in.
Mm-hmm. Would you recommend, as a new person, physically doing the moving or being at least on site as well?
They should definitely be on site.
Okay.
They should definitely be on site, because one of the things for us is that we learned everything from the great university of YouTube. Like we didn't know how to move boxes or what kind of equipment we're gonna need. So I still credit these guys. They're based out of Texas. They're a very large moving company, so they have a lot of videos online. They have hundreds and hundreds of videos. And my partner and myself, we watched it for like hours and hours to see how they do it. How do they wrap a couch? How do they wrap this particular piece of furniture? And all these kind of things. So everything we learned online. And once we were on the site, we found that, yes, 50% of that information was valuable, and the other 50% you just got to improvise.
Wow. Okay, great. So you learned a lot from YouTube. That's awesome. That's kind of where I started too.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Tarek, here's the big question. You ready?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. I prepped you for this, so I hope you're prepared. This is the big one. We're LandLife, right? I buy and sell vacant land all over the US. Maybe I'll start working in Canada. Who knows? If you could buy land anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
I would say it would be in Toronto, because the prices have gone up significantly. I mean, it is unbelievable how the prices have gone up. And vacant land in Toronto, especially, obviously it's a gold mine, but the thing is that it is not really available. I mean, unless you're ready to sort of gut an entire house and build something on it, but land is just not available anymore, right? Because everybody has built something on theirs, and you just gotta, there's really nothing there. So honestly, if I'm talking about 20 years ago, 20 years ago, if I had the money and if I had the foresight, obviously I would buy some land in Toronto.
Perfect. Toronto. You're the third person to say Toronto. I've
Oh,
only
wow.
done
Okay.
30. I think this is the 32nd podcast I've done. And you're the
So
third
almost
person to say
10%.
Toronto.
Wow. Awesome. So yeah, there's something going on here, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money to be made in Toronto if you can get the land up there. So
True.
all right, Tarek. Anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate that and hope I've been able to add some value to your audience.
Absolutely, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe so I can keep getting good guests like Tarek. And make sure you guys, check out Double Space, hit up Tarek on social media, and share this podcast with all your friends. Guys, until next time, I'll see you on LandLife.
Thank you.